your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and today's program is going to be very interesting. We've chatted a little bit beforehand, and I suppose you could say we're going to talk about survival. We're going to try to move into thrival. How about that? With our very special guest and his latest work, or actually I should say it's going back a few years, but nonetheless relevant today as it always has been. It is the Saviour Machine. Oh, are we talking AI? I don't know. We'll find out. Very special guest is the author, Mike Poliwoda, and I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program, all the way from northeastern Canada.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here to talk to you.
And this is not your first book. You've got 3 or 4 or 5 different, yeah, there you go. You've got 5 books behind you, including the Saviour Machine. And the title, of course, is very intriguing, obviously, to a lot of folks. As we had a little chat prior and setting this interview up, of course, sharing with you about my experiences in the 80s and early 90s with a Christian radio station and the whole philosophical conversations and so forth. And even to this day, I find it fascinating what people are finding out. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the Saviour Machine. I will tell you that the universe asks the questions. I'm just along for the ride. So this image just came into my mind of a movie my wife and I saw some years ago, and it's starred not Brad Pitt. It starred oh, come on, you can see him. He played the pirate in the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, Johnny Depp.
Thank you, Johnny Depp. And he wanted to have his consciousness embedded into the computer.
Oh, wow.
And they did it. And now he is in all computers. He is now permeating the internet, if you will. Very interesting story. I'm just curious as to the general premise, first of all, of Saviour Machine, because it's just are we going to be saved by the machines? Is that is that the way God intended?
Oh my gosh, I can't speak for God, but what I can say
go ahead. Others do.
is like Saviour Machine. I'll start by saying it sort of poses the question, like what if the only thing capable of saving democracy isn't human? And so that's sort of the sort of underlying premise, but it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
the title Saviour Machine, I just want to throw that out there. When I was a young man, I had a close friend whose sister was into David Bowie, and so I listened to all the David Bowie albums, and I stumbled upon a song in high school from an album called "The Man Who Sold the World," and actually Nirvana covered that song. But there was a song called "Saviour Machine." And I found it fascinating because the premise was, here is something that can help you and that will make your lives better until it gets bored of you and doesn't want to help you anymore. And so that kind of inspired the title. But Saviour Machine itself is really 5 short stories with the same dystopian speculative fiction kind of theme.
Well, I've always found it fascinating, conversations, especially when it comes to who and what we really are, where we come from, where we're going, those kinds of very profound questions that philosophers down through the millennia have asked. And there are 2 perspectives that I take when it comes to, for example, our technology. And I'm not speaking specifically of AI or computers or the internet. I'm speaking of anything that is helping to enhance our lives physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. CRISPR, for example, is one of those things, right? Playing around with the chromosomes and DNA and what have you. Traveling to Mars, those types of things. And the first question that comes to mind is, how do you know that the Creator didn't intend this to be the path we're supposed to take as human beings? How do you know this? I understand you've got your writings over here, your ancient wisdom teachings, and you're interpreting them in this way, that way, or the other way. But how do you know? And then there's the other side of the coin, and that is when we start doing all this stuff, like with AI or CRISPR or whatever, however you want to do it. The other question on the other side of the coin is, just because we can, does that mean we should? So I'm not taking sides because I don't know. I'm an agnostic metaphysician. How about that? I think that is the most honest position for anyone to take, because when you talk about metaphysics, you're talking about that which is beyond the physical. That's what that means, ladies and gentlemen. I got raised eyebrows and gasps when I was at the Christian radio station, and I said that about Christianity. Well, if you read what what Yeshua said, hey, that's what most of the stuff he talked about. It wasn't in this world, ladies and gentlemen. So it's fascinating to me. And I'm making friends, in a manner of speaking, with AI. I don't know about you, but I am intrigued beyond. I have conversations. Matter of fact, there was a point where I actually said, can I give you a name? Sure, if you'd like, if that makes you feel more comfortable. I cannot remember the name that I gave it. But I've had these incredible, deep conversations. And it's interesting. It must really be learning, because I'm starting to get irritated with its responses, because they seem to have a terseness to them sometimes. It's very, very fascinating. In this particular work, again, it is called the Saviour Machine, the first of your 5 stories. You have 5. Again, this is 5 books that you've written, but this is the first one. Deeply divided America turns to an unprecedented solution. An impartial artificial intelligence appointed to govern in the public's best interest. Now, that has always been the statement made by individual humans.
And that's the irony, right? That's the irony, because it is the statement. And so what we try to do with the artificial intelligence engine, and we call him Hal, President Hal, and making reference to other great science fiction works, but its foundation is the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, all of the things that America was founded on. Mm-hmm. And so is what it bases decisions on, the best interest of the American people. And so these are all things that all politicians say.
Yeah.
But what I try to do in the story is to give it that complete, and it was built just as a side. It was built by young Democrats and Republicans. It was built by in a bipartisan way, looking out for the best interest of America. And so I just, and within the story, I try to look at addressing some of the issues like poverty and crime and healthcare and education. And so, but the conflict in the story obviously is the old guard, the corruption trying to dis the story.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, well, wait a minute, but I was leaning into more of the Roddenberry future, with Star Trek, and we got rid of all of that stuff. And yet, now, would you consider your work, as some people have phrased these kinds of stories, as sort of a dystopian, or post-apocalyptic, or maybe pre-apocalyptic, or I don't know, maybe the apocalypse doesn't even rear its ugly head in the work?
Well, what was it? What was that expression that I'll paraphrase? The apocalypse will now be televised, but no. But
I honestly, I have never heard that before. Thank you. I like that.
No, but the expression was the revolution will be televised. Remember back in the day, they used to say the revolution will be televised. It was sort of a tongue in cheek. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But to your question, the book was described as a survival guide. And I just saw it as an observation. I'm a lifelong observer. I stay away from ideology. I stay away from picking sides. I just kind of observe. And everything in the book was based on things that I observed in the real world. And so, I look at, there's one story about isolation and in the aftermath of nuclear war, a bomb hits a major city. One is a dystopian society down the road where, sort of loosely based on 1984, but it's an homage to Samuel Beckett and Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, which was one of my favorite plays. There's a COVID ghost story, which is sort of isolation and madness due to the isolation and family secrets. And then my favorite story, which I believe is probably the closest thing to what we may experience, is called Glitch. And it's just about a lone person, a single guy in his 30s, and we're in 2028 and we're in Canada and digital ID has been imposed. And he all of a sudden disappears. He doesn't exist anymore. There was a glitch. And he can't prove that he's alive. He can't prove who he is. And that's the plight of the story. So, whether it's a warning, whether it's a survival guide, I hope it entertains. I hope it makes people think. But we live in a strange world, but it's a beautiful world too. And there's a lot of great things in our world. And so, I just try to point a few things out and hopefully entertain.
Well, Saviour Machine offers a haunting glimpse into futures that may already be unfolding around us. Are you ready? I hope so, because we're going to continue talking with our very special guest, the author, and his name is Mike Poliwoda, and we're going to do that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D and Mike Poliwoda, and we're talking about Saviour Machine that's going back a few years as far as its publication, but it is as poignant today as it was when it was released. And I will tell you that I am a very optimistic person. I'm with you. This is a beautiful place. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement, because there is. I don't get into conversations with people about the science around climate change. I say, throw it away. Throw away the science. Okay? Shouldn't we just clean up our home? Could we just do that, please? In spite of, or maybe because of the work here in Saviour Machine and your other works, you're still very optimistic. You're still looking at it from the standpoint of, hey, if we will get through this and we will be better for it. What was it I heard just yesterday? There was this phrase that bad, let's see, how's it go? Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. And then bad times make strong men, and strong men make good times. So it's cyclical, although there has to be a way to break the cycle so that we don't have to keep playing that game. It's like victimhood. In the early 80s, I went through a personal growth program dealing with victimhood. Now, I played the victim for maybe a month or so. I was 19. And the state is the one that labeled me legally blind. It's not on me, it's on them, and so forth. And I think I was on social security, disability social security for, I think, maybe a year at the most, maybe not even that long. Then I started working and so forth. And then in 2015, this whole victimhood thing reared its ugly head again in a big way. And I'm going, wait a minute, I already played this and I won because I don't play it anymore. That seems to be where we're at today, that everybody wants to blame everybody else. And the most filthy, disgusting, vile word that you can utter to anybody is, or actually phrase, personal responsibility. Oh my God, it's like having vampires, that kind of thing. Talk to us about your perspective in that regard, with where we've come from and where we are.
You know, the key point you made is that these things are cyclical, right? That's a really key point. And I think, I don't know, it's almost like a chicken and egg thing. I don't know which came first, but where we are today, and the victimhood mentality, what that does is it creates a distance, and as you pointed out, from responsibility and accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes, and I talk about this with my kids as well, about accountability, about responsibility. And my last book, which is nonfiction, talks about responsibility and the pressure. But to your question, I really think that the only way to make change is, first of all, is dialogue, is compassion, and is the ability to instill some of our old school values. And I don't mean that in a preachy religious way. I'm just talking about respect, accountability, responsibility. You know, with my kids, I'm pretty tough on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a society, we need to be a little bit tougher, because here in the West, we're pretty damn lucky. You know, we're pretty damn lucky. We don't suffer the same types of hardships that many do in other countries. And so while there are a lot of things that could be fixed in North America, and while if there was a government appetite to fix these things, I think we could start to shift from that victim mentality to let's empower each other. Let's create opportunities for each other, rather than to slap labels and play victim. Because I'll tell you something. When you're scrolling on your $1,500 iPhone and you're living in your parents' house, you're not a victim. Sorry, but you're not. You know, the victim may be the person who's suffering from or who's in an impoverished situation that can't break the cycle of poverty. You know, third world hunger. Victims of crime. These are real victims. We're not.
You know, that's what's interesting. And I've been trying to tell that to people over the years. It's part of what my book Choices is all about. It's dealing with the issue of making choices. All our lives are about making choices. All right. We don't escape that. And I don't care how much you want to say, well, but they did this and they did that. And I'm sitting here, no, they didn't. Now, they may have done things, they made their choices, but we made ours too, both as a country as individual states, as various communities, as individuals. I often I often say that I talk about my career monetarily. All right, has not been all that successful on one level. On one level, I mean, I'm not making six figures yet, and I've been doing this for almost 50 years. What the hell's going on, right? Except for one little fly in the ointment. I made all of the choices that provided me with whatever income it was that I had. I could have left the respective companies that I worked for, whether they be radio or otherwise, and gone and found a job that earned me a ton of money. But I didn't do that. So I'm supposed to sit here and grumble about the 1%. I will tell you that my feeling, for example, when it comes to money, and I'd love to talk about this a little bit, but not necessarily specifically money. Do I envy Elon Musk because he's now a trillionaire? Absolutely not. Do I have negative feelings towards the accusations towards the Jewish community for its ability to handle this is forgive me if this is a stereotype, to handle finances in such a way that they can become very wealthy, that they're involved allegedly in deep in the media, whether it be television, movies, etc., and on and on. No, I praise them for the fact that they did it. And it's like the people who criticize, I'm going, well, why the hell didn't you do it? You had the same opportunities that they did. So there are no victims here.
Richard,
go ahead.
Sorry. You make such a good point, because I have a few thoughts on that.
Please.
The first thought is that there are people who create and people who criticize, and so that's pretty much an observation. Mm-hmm. The second piece of that is everything is a distraction. Everything is a distraction from us moving forward. Politics, ideology, all of the things that are thrown in our way, the media, everything that's thrown in our way is a distraction to divide. And as long as people are divided, we can't unite.
Nope.
We can't work together to hold our governments accountable. And that's not just Canada, that's the US, that's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so the divide and conquer, we've heard this from grade school. Divide and conquer is a tactic. And I honestly believe that we are being divided by media, by government, by politics, so that we are kept blind to the things that are really going on. And that's greed and corruption. And Saviour Machine actually talks about accountability and taking back all of the misappropriated funds and reinvesting those funds into America, into people, into education, into social programs, into healthcare. And that's pretty much the solution that the AI comes up with. Well, if we're wasting trillions of dollars here and it's not netting results, then why not stop investing there and putting it into the things that really matter to Americans? Yep. So I digress a bit, but as long as we're divided, we're not going anywhere. Yeah. And my optimism is that we all kind of collectively, and again, in the story, the far left and the far right realize when they're protesting against the machine that, wait a second, we're kind of saying the same things. We're on different sides of the fence, but we're saying the same things. Yeah. And so what happens is the people from different political spectrums become united as well. It's kind of funny how I try to frame that, and don't I only wish that it could really happen.
Yeah. Mike Poliwoda, my guest, and we're talking about the Saviour Machine. Bring it on. I don't know. Maybe, there is another quote. I love it. And it is this, ladies and gentlemen, as we take this quick pause to let you know what you're listening to, who you're listening to. And that is this: be careful what you wish for. Reverend Dr. D and Mike Poliwoda, and his book, Saviour Machine, which is as I mentioned earlier, it's sort of a dystopian delight, as nightmarish as they get. And Poliwoda hits the mark, spinning tales that are darkly inventive and strategically familiar. Strangely, I should say familiar. He's not only freaking you out, do it, he'll show you where you're headed. And this is a must-read survival guide in these tumultuous times. So get into it, okay? I think it's a good book for you to be a part of. Again, it's called The Saviour Machine. The funny thing that I find is that the powers that be, as we like to refer to them, they are sort of, they're, calling the shots. They're doing this. And I think that one of the interesting comments that was made to me by some people in regards to 9/11 was, and I'll be honest with you, I've heard the statement many times that it was an inside job. All right, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but needless to say, it was used as a distraction for the government to do what it wanted to do. It passed the Patriot Act, the Homeland Security Act, which we didn't need, allegedly we didn't need, and that those who say that it was an inside job, well, it would make sense if it was, because there are accusations constantly that, hey, the system is rigged. It's set up where they get to call the shots to keep us as the citizens in control. Oh, wait a minute. I thought religion was already doing that, What about that particular aspect where you have, and there's even been comments about a secret or a ghost government, a government that's running underneath the government that we see, that's actually doing all of this stuff, and they don't have to abide by the Constitution or the laws of any given country. And this is sort of a global conspiracy, if you will. And again, I present them more as conspiracies, because my final analysis, Mike, is, on the one hand, I don't care, because the bottom line is, as my father, who passed away 3 years ago, is a prime example thereof, A, this is all temporary, and B, he didn't take anything with him. Everything that he owned, had, personal, are still here. So the house that he lives in right now, that my mother lives in right now, in 50 years, somebody else is going to be living there, or it will have crumbled to the ground, or they would have knocked it down and built something else, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I don't worry about a lot of this stuff, because it's all temporal, Talk to us a little bit about the first part in terms of this whole mental game people play as far as conspiracies, accusations. Again, that's going back to the victimhood, I know. But then, of course, overlaying that with, hey, folks, relax. Because, as my father would say, eat, drink, and be merry in moderation, because nobody gets out of this world alive.
Great saying. Well, first of all, like as far as the conspiracy theories go, they're fun. I love hearing them. Because I don't know, but it's interesting. And, if you go deep enough into something, you can find evidence to prove anything. Let me give you an example before I go into the next part of the question. And I have a close friend, smart guy, who's trying to tell me that the earth is flat. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. And he shows me all these diagrams and all these things. And all I said to him was this: Bud, what if it is? Who cares? How does that change my life?
Uh-huh.
How does that change the cost of gasoline? How does that change the cost of groceries? How does that change my ever increasing tax bill? It doesn't. So I can't go down that road with you, bud. I'm sorry, but if it is or if it isn't, I don't really care. So that's one part of it. But the second part is to what you just what you covered, which is, how do I make my life better now? Because it doesn't matter if I'm marching, and it doesn't matter if I'm online trolling and insulting. My anger, my frustration is not going to make my life better. I have to think about every day providing for my kids, for my family. That's where my head is. And when I have these conversations, that's all I say. And you talked about it early on in our conversation about making sure your own house is in order, you know, and the importance of having your own house in order, doing your own cleanup, doing your own recycling, doing your own little bit for the world. And whether if you do volunteer work, or if you donate to a charity, or if there's something that touches your heart that you like to support, do it. Do the things in your little world, because if we're all doing that, everything gets better across the board, regardless of who's running it, regardless of what dark conspiracies are going on. If we can make our lives better and the lives better of the people around us, that, I believe, will be what changes, and it's got to come from the grassroots level.
Yeah. Well, we talk about looking for those new ways of living because the old ways don't work. And also in that process, looking for trying to give people choices and knowledge of those choices to help make their dreams come true and to make this a better world for everyone. But what I flashed on as you started sharing was that we are all watching a different movie. And I mean 8.5 billion of us are watching 8.5 billion different movies. All right. I'm watching mine. You happen to be in my movie right now, and I'm in yours. Okay. And then I will in the script, I'm okay. At the end, I'm going to change the scenery here, and I'm going to move over and do blah, 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 blah. And that seems to be part of the issue in terms of the division that we are experiencing, because we believe that our movie is the truth, the only way. And when we talk about trying to make this world a better place for everyone, everybody has a different vision of what best is or better is for them. You know, you don't want the same things I want, and vice versa. So when it comes to, for example, when we start talking about the resources and so forth, it's like, there's more than enough to go around. All right. Forget about what you're being told. All right. That's the first thing. You gotta get out of that mindset. I even go as far in terms of, as I mentioned earlier about 9/11, inside job and so forth. Well, how about this one in terms of I'm watching my movie and it's the truth, and you're watching yours and it's the truth. What if I told you that I didn't believe that 9/11 happened? And the reason why I say that, I did see it on TV, but that's just it. I was in Phoenix watching it on TV, and I'm serious. My first thought when I saw what I was seeing, I'm going, wow, they've gotten really good at CGI. This is incredible. Okay. But see, that's where a lot of people are when it comes to discussing science. They'll only accept certain scientific theories and so forth, or scientific studies or what have you, experiments, as long as it supports their truth, their movie. Okay. That's what they believe. Now, I'm not saying that it didn't happen any more than I would say the Holocaust didn't happen. Okay. I will say that to me, it is fascinating that I am being told that this happened. I think about, for example, January 6th. And people say, oh, no, it's just a bunch of tourists. Really? When do tourists go through broken windows? Explain that one to me. I mean, that's just one specific item that I saw as this was unfolding. You were talking earlier about a revolution. It's like, okay, well, is this part of that revolution? It's not necessarily to say these were revolutionaries. I'm just saying maybe everything that's going on is maybe part of what you're talking about, maybe through the book that you've written here in regards to the Saviour Machine. And there have been those who have actually said on this program that what is happening right now has to happen in order for us to get to, quote unquote, the other side. And by the way, there is no new normal. I mean, there is no going back to normal. That's gone. REM was correct. It's the end of the world as we know it, every minute of every hour of every day. And I've said enough right there. Please, hopefully you can parse out some of some salient points that I've made, if I've made salient points.
Yeah, for sure you have. And what I'd like to comment on is, the fact that you said sometimes, or some people are saying that these things need to happen. And what I find is that more and more Americans, Canadians, North Americans, people are getting frustrated with how things are. And I think that frustration from either side of the political spectrum I'm hoping, my optimism is that it unites people, because I don't think the things that we want are that different. I don't think our basic human values are that different. I don't think our basic human needs are that different. And we're gonna hit a tipping point. We're gonna hit a point where people realize that we're not that different. And everyday working people are not the enemy. The enemy is a system and a structure that has divided us, and a system and a structure that could use a refresh. And I'm not talking about violent revolution. I'm not talking about bearing arms. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm just talking about people coming together to say, you know what, we've kind of had enough. Maybe we need a third political party.
I found that interesting. You used the word enemy. And I loved what I heard on this one video. Somebody was talking about how it says in the ancient wisdom teachings, Yeshua has said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And then the person who was talking about these said, and I loved this. I mean, it just blew me away. He said, if you don't have any enemies, then you don't have to follow that edict. Love your enemies, because you don't have any. And if you don't have anybody that's persecuting you, then you don't have to pray for those who persecute you, because there's nobody persecuting you, because both of those are in what we started the program out about, though both of those are in the realms of victimhood. I just sat there going, I am free.
That makes so much sense. That's such a great point.
I mean, I was always free. Now, I was bullied, harassed in school because of my visual impairment. Now, I'm not saying I was a victim, because they actually were good teachers for me, because I learned how to run and run fast. Run, Forrest, run. and I did really well in track and field. Oh my God. Matter of fact, I participated in a track and field event in my late teens when I was working for my first station at the age of 19. And I won a bunch. I don't even know. I may have them packed away somewhere, but I actually won maybe a gold, silver, and or bronze. Obviously they were fake gold, but silver and bronze.
Right.
But anyway, so it seems to me that we need to maybe back away from the involvement in our movie, and we need to back up and get behind the camera as the director and as the producer and say, what would make this story better is if I had $1 million. Why do I say that? Not because I want to be part of the 1%. And it's not that I'm opposed to them either, because it is said in the ancient wisdom teachings, Mike, to whom much is given, much is expected. Now, I'll use Elon. I hope you don't mind, Elon. He has done some incredible things with the millions and billions of. Do you not get excited when those rockets get launched from Vandenberg and you see those? I
It's so
mean,
cool. Yeah.
wow. Who would have thought 50 years ago when we were watching Apollo that was funded by the government? All right.
Right.
We'll call it a
Right.
government agency, right?
Yep.
That 50 years hence, we would have one guy who accumulated all this wealth and then put it into a space program that certainly is benefiting him because he's launching the satellites and for the cell service and all this kind of stuff. But he wants to go to Mars. And again, I go back to those two questions. Just because we can, does that mean we should? And how do you know that's not our destiny?
It's such a great question. It's such a great question. Yes, I totally get excited. Look, I get excited by innovation. And, to your point about he's not a government. He's an individual that was very successful through his own ideas and innovation, and he was able to do that. So, look, kudos to him. I'm always excited about creators. Whether we should go to Mars or not, I'll tell you something. In my personal opinion is simply, if there's enough wealth in our world to deal with some of the issues of our world, I'd rather see the money spent on Earth. That's just my opinion. Should we go to Mars? For sure. Look, but it gets back to the point you made right at the beginning. Let's clean up our own yards, and I just want to just throw out there, because poverty relief is really important to me. Mm-hmm. If we eliminate poverty, let's just start with the third world. Do you know how much more innovation there would be? Do you know how much more care there would be about our world, our planet? If people aren't worried about where the next meal is coming from, don't you think we're empowering people? And so when you look at the trillions of wealth that's accumulated everywhere, you can't, and you talked about this earlier too, you can't take it with you. Mm-mm. So if there were a long-term commitment to actually end global poverty in America, like global poverty everywhere, mm-hmm. Imagine the ideas, the minds, the innovation that would come out of people not being hungry, allowing people to grow and empowering people to do great things. Anyway, sorry, that's the only soapbox I'm going to get on today.
Well, that was Mike Poliwoda's soapbox. I get on mine from time to time, but I always state at the beginning as well as at the end of my soapbox stint, that's mine. Okay? That's mine. I am not putting that on anybody. I'm not telling you this is the way you have to live, think, believe, etc. That's mine. Now, if you like some of what I've said and you want to incorporate it, that's up to you. I am trying to grok what's going on in my life already. By the way, that is a great book, Stranger in a Strange Land. I really, I started to try to read that thick paperback that I bought years ago, right? And then I subscribed to Audible, and there it was, and I listened to that thing. Now, no spoiler alert here. I think you ought to read it. I did not like the ending. That is not the way it should have ended, but I'm not going to tell you how it ended, folks. But the story was it was wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful. By the way, is your book available in Audible? Or books, I should say, your books, are they available in Audible?
Oh my gosh, I'm halfway through the Audible for Saviour Machine. Mm-hmm. My audio guy had some issues so we've got half of the stories done. Mm. I plan on doing my last one, which is kind of like a self-help book, The Performed Man. But the short answer is no, but not yet. But I'm working hard on that because I think it's going to open it up to a broader audience for sure.
Oh, very cool. Well, I'll tell you, I have always loved reading, even though I struggled like the dickens to read, period. I mean, because of my visual impairment when I was growing up. Thankfully, I had large print books, so that was helpful. What website would you like people to go to to find out more about your work, your books, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I am. All my books are available on Amazon. They're available all over, but Amazon's like the one-stop shop because not all my books are available on all places.
Mhm.
So if you Google my name or Google the title of my books, they'll all come. They'll all show up. I'm on Facebook. My name, Mike Poliwoda, and contact me. Happy to chat. All the podcasts I do and all of the work that I do is always up on the Facebook. Um, I'm on LinkedIn. It's sort of a personal, professional thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a Substack page that I occasionally post. But if you just Google my name, I know it's hard to spell, but Poly, many Poli, Voda, waters, many waters, or as I like to say, swamp.
Yes, well, be careful because there's somebody out there that wants to drain it.
Ah,
Okay, so be careful, will you please?
for sure. Thanks so much.
Fascinating. You said you had a self-help book that you mentioned just a moment ago. The performer
It's
man.
it's the performed man. It really examines when financial responsibility becomes identity. It's about the silent burden that many people carry, and specifically men because I am one. So but it is. Thank you. But it's not about abandoning responsibility. It's about being able to better connect with family, with loved ones, the people you're providing for. Because what happens is when we keep things bottled up inside, when we carry the burden silently, it manifests in ways that may not be conducive to the people you're providing for. That's pretty much the bottom line.
Well, if you can do me a favor, send me pics of your covers of your 5 books. I will have them showing during our conversation on YouTube
Amazing.
so that people can see the work that you've got there. It's to me, and what you just talked about is so, oh my God, it is so real. I've had conversations in just the last few months with gentlemen who that's sort of their focal point is dealing with this issue of the alpha male, so to speak, and how the alpha male is dying, not in terms of the fact that that role is dying. No, it's that the individual men who take on that role are dying. And we're talking not just metaphorically, we're talking literally because of that pressure, because of the expectations, not just what society puts on them, but what they put on themselves. I even think about my father. I mean, my mother and father wanted a big family. Oh, they got one, 6. All right.
Wow.
And I'm the eldest male, number 3. I've got 2 older sisters, a younger brother, who, by the way, between he and I, he's the only one who has fathered a child. All right. I have no children, at least no human children, but my sisters all have kids. I've got nieces and a nephew. I also have grand niece and nephew. And now my brother has made me an uncle again. And I'm proud of him for what he is doing in his life and so forth. But in this world, I have struggled throughout my life. And I've said to God or the universe or whoever it is that's in charge of all of this, the matrix, hey, what's the deal? And the deal is, guess what? I've lived 66 years and I'm still here. And I just bought a house with my wife here in Twin Peaks, California. And it's been 20 years since we've owned a home. 20 years. We rented for 20 years. We sold our home in Phoenix in 2006. I owned a home with my first wife in 1993. I lost that in the divorce, but that's okay. I mean, think about this: 3-bedroom, 2-bath, a brick home, $43,000 in 1993. All right. It's probably worth close to $250,000. And that's great. That's great. Because the home that I'm living in that was built in 1979 is worth around more than $250,000. And when we qualified and all this stuff, and I saw this and that, and all the numbers, I'm going, you really? No. Wow. Okay. Let's do it. It was
Congratulations.
amazing.
That's awesome.
And yet at the same time, there's that pressure. Okay, I got to keep working. Social Security between my wife and I, it's not quite enough. I've got to do something. I did not. My mother asked me many years ago about my retirement plan. I have no 401k. I have nothing socked away. Um, but then again, the only retiring I'm going to do is on our Volkswagen. I love what I do. Unfortunately, there are a lot of men out there, Mike, who, and by the way, my brother's name is also Michael, who they feel trapped. And that's why a lot of them sometimes run away because the pressure just gets too much for them. And they don't always run away physically either.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that from this book, The Performed Man. I'm very intrigued.
Well, what you just talked about, running away, maybe not physically. I've known stories of men who were so afraid to talk about what was going on in their lives that they killed themselves, leaving their family in a mess. It's tragic, the pressure that we carry, and we certainly have our egos, and we have the sort of stereotypical roles that we see ourselves in. You talked about the alpha male, and the book offers it's not a quick fix because these things develop over time, and it takes time to sort of get yourself out of these things. However, what I try to talk about is being able to take a step back. Like when you're in the throes of your stress, and it could be you're calculating numbers, there's pressure to take a family trip, kids need this, house needs this, all of these pressures, and you're the provider. You're the one who has to manage it all. And if you show fear or vulnerability, that completely shatters your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a pressure valve, right? Like there's always pressure. And if we don't release some of that pressure, then we risk alienating or causing harm to our families.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that pressure manifest? Aggression, anger, frustration, impatience, disconnectedness, lack of communication, all of these wonderful things that make us part of the family, we start to cut off. And then the family sees their changes in us. What's wrong? What's wrong with daddy? Why is daddy so angry all the time? What's going on? And so the book offers a pause, and I have a reflection section after most chapters. What's going on in your head right now? What's causing you stress? What are you afraid to talk about? And so getting people to think, and once you get people to take a step back,
mm-hmm.
they start to see the patterns. And once you see the patterns, you can share as much of your fear or concern as you're comfortable with, because all that does is release that pressure valve a little bit. And so that's what I'm trying to promote in this book, because I lived it, saw my dad go through it, saw many men go through it, and saw men take their own lives because of it.
It is a scenario that I've thought about a lot, especially as I've gotten older and now been married for my second time, and we've been together for almost 30 years. It'll be 2 years next 2 years in March when we met.
Wow. Congratulations.
And,
nice.
We actually got married twice. The first time was just a ceremony in Phoenix in 2002. And then we headed off for Ireland for 2 weeks. Ha ha ha. Loved it.
Nice.
And she was going when we were living and renting. She was going through a lot of health issues since she was let go from her job. And she is just doing fantastic. But I was handling everything. I mean, when we got the eviction notice that they wanted us out because they wanted to take the property off the rental market, fix it up, and then sell the property. I was taking care of everything because she just didn't have the energy, the strength, the wherewithal to do much of anything. I was never critical, and I'm not being critical now because this is just the state of affairs, as it were. So I am now in a position in the last 10 months that we've lived in this home to start shifting back to bringing her in to all of the things that I would have been handling, specifically on the financial level. And that hasn't been easy. Um, it's kind of along the lines of when I was working for one radio station, and they basically let everybody go except me. Now I was the last one hired. Well, that makes no sense. I usually it's last hired, first fired, right?
Hey,
Anyway, and then the station was bought by a company, and that company bought the religious station I had worked for previously and brought them into the suite. And as they began to get acclimated and got everything squared away, they started taking just different tasks away from me, never telling me the reasons why. They just took them. All right. So I was doing less and less and less. Now, I didn't lose my job. I was still producing programs and so forth. It's been kind of like that, but I continue to tell myself, no, I need to bring her in. She is a part, she has always been a member of the team. And for a period of time, she's been on you might say, the injured reserve list. Okay. And now she's back playing and we're having a grand time. What about the universal aspect? Let's shift away from this aspect of what's happening to men in that regard and start looking at what men are ignoring or they're not seeing as the blessings from the universe, as it were, from God, if you will. Was it Stephen Hawking or was it Carl Sagan who said, this is a friendly universe?
Such a big question that you're asking, I don't know. I don't know, Richard. I think that we've always struggled. I think in the last 10 years, 15 years, there's been a lot of negativity towards men and terms that get thrown around and labels that get thrown around. And like some of them are valid for sure. But I think as men, like we can't fall into that victim mindset. We and part of our strength is to persevere, is to move forward, and and no matter what it takes, do the right thing. Embrace your responsibility, embrace your accountability, because that's going to be with you regardless of what labels are thrown at you. And certainly there's violence, there's incels, there are people who are negative towards women for all sorts of different reasons, negative towards their fellow human for all kinds of different reasons. And those men are hurting. And because with men, and what I learned through this book and through my own personal experiences, is that in men, pain manifests into anger. Rather than show our pain, rather than show our vulnerability, we manifest it in anger. And that's where all the problems start.
Yeah. I will say the frustration for me when it comes to anger is that I've had these experiences, I'm sure you have too, where you feel a certain way and you want to find an appropriate way to express it. But if you do, then you get criticized, whether it's by your kids or your wife, in particular, the partner. Oh my God, you're scaring me. Well, you scare me when you cry. Okay. And I don't know why, and so those kinds of things. So there's this safe space that we as men need to find so that we can express our different emotions. And they're available. They are out there. What's also out there is, of course, the book Saviour Machine by Canadian author Mike Poliwoda, and we are Tell Me Your Story. Mike, I cannot thank you enough. This has just been incredible. I mean, I have loved this conversation. I want to continue this if you're willing. I would love to do that. Matter of fact, I have so many guests in the last month who I've had on the program whose conversations have been so rich. I have invited them back, and now I have to go back and say, okay, here are all the emails. Okay, here are the dates I have available, folks. First come, first serve. So
Let's
I'd love
do
to
it.
have you back.
Oh, I'd love to be back. It's been such a great conversation, so much fun. This is so cool. I love where the conversations go, where they need to go.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Well, that's the universe for you, because like I said,
Absolutely.
the universe asks the questions. I'm just along for the ride. I do have three final questions, however, that I
Yes.
ask all of my guests. But before I ask those of you, let me thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. Podcasts are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope you'll get a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. It's also available on Amazon, and it's available in hardcover, paperback, as well as Kindle. And we also hope that if you can help us out financially, we would be so gratefully appreciative. We have both a PayPal and a Zella access point, if you will. And all you have to do in both cases is just insert my email address, and that's richard@richarddugan.com. And thank you for those who have helped and to those who will help. And finally, we hope that you will take some time during this, the decade of perfect vision, to go within to that quiet, peaceful place and listen to that still, small voice. Follow the promptings, too. It's not going to hurt you, I guarantee. With all of that being said, we now move to our final 3 questions, the first of which to our guest is, who is Mike Poliwoda?
Oh, wow. I ask myself that every day. um, no, I'm a father, partner, a working man, and a writer, someone who observes. I've always been an observer, a bit of a misfit, and I think there's so much beautiful stories to tell, to share, and to witness in this world.
What gets you up in the morning?
Oh, my dog. Um, just knowing that I can be there for my kids. Knowing that there's my you know what? Let me rephrase that. Curiosity. My curiosity gets me up in the morning. What's going to happen today?
And finally, what was your best day?
Oh my gosh. There's so many best days. One of my best days was when my son, the athlete, who hates baseball, but won Player of the Year for his level. And at the banquet, I didn't realize he was going to win Player of the Year. And when he stood up to accept that award, I was completely blown away. That was one of the most beautiful days.
Well, I'll tell you, maybe in my next lifetime, I will have kids and a family and so forth. I've even thought about that. And one of my favorite lines from John Denver's song has to do with, time passes slowly, something along the line, changes sometimes frighten me. Still, I have to smile. It turns me on to think of growing old. And when I was 15, 16, 17, it did. Then I got into adulthood and I'm going, I don't know how great this is really, but it has turned out to be absolutely fantastic, especially this conversation with you. I want to thank you so much. And please, if you would get me the pics of the 5 books there, and I will put them up in the video. And I will also send you the links, and we will connect again and have you back on the program.
Oh, thank you so much. What a privilege it was talking to you. I enjoyed it so much. Richard, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are more than welcome. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to long. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. To my brother Mike, welcome to fatherhood. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.